Hello, welcome to Video Mania 2. I'm the man behind the counter, Duncan, and today we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about a different topic. Today we're going to talk about movie theaters and the current problems they're facing and what the future holds for them. And I want to preface this by saying I want movie theaters to succeed, but I don't go much anymore, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. But I'm going to start off. It's going to be a bit of a rant, so bear with me here. I hope this video doesn't go on too long. I did a take yesterday and it just went on forever and it was just too long, so I'm going to cut it down. But right now, movie theaters they had a couple good weekends. You had Barbie, which is doing incredible business. Oppenheimer's doing very well. Sound of Freedom's doing very well. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles opened up and did pretty well. And the Meg 2 opened up and did fairly well. So you have 5 movies right now, and all are doing pretty well. Some of them incredibly well. But the theaters are having good weekends. And one of the problems they're facing is a lot of times there's not a diverse slate of movies. Like right now, those are 5 completely different movies, and the theaters are doing well. So this is going to be aimed at the studios a little bit too, because they're not creating enough, in my opinion, either. So I'm going to now go into the problems movie theaters are having. So right now, they've had some good weekends, and I think the Barbenheimer thing's going to hold up okay for maybe another week or two. But then after that, there's not a whole lot coming out, I don't think, that's really going to do well. I don't think, other than I think there's a lot of excitement for Dune 2, but that's not for a few months off. And also another problem the theaters are facing, and there's a million videos on this, so I'm not going to talk about that as much, is the writers and actors strike. So there's really nothing getting made right now other than some independent features. But let's go into the current problems with movie theaters, because the media may talk about, a lot of articles are like, oh, they're setting all kinds of records right now. Yeah, because ticket prices are completely through the roof, and with inflation, if you look at number of tickets sold from back in the day to now, it's not as rosy of a picture. They may be making more money than ever, but a whole lot less people are coming. So I'm going to talk about the current problems now and some of the issues I've had. And I'm going to say I'm not the biggest expert by any means, but I have worked at Regal Cinemas in the past, and I worked at AMC theaters in the past. So I do have some experience in the theater and seen what goes on. So I'm by no means the biggest expert, but I have a pretty good idea. And by the way, this is all just my opinion. So, current problems right now, I would say, the diminishing quality of movies. Like right now, there's a big slate of movies, and it's subjective whether they're good or not, but a lot of people seem to be liking them. So right now things are good, but a lot of times it's just there hasn't been a lot of good stuff out, and audiences are starting to get wiser, because the internet, you click of a phone, you can see what people are saying, or you can check on a YouTube video and see what people are saying. So the word of mouth gets out a whole lot faster right now, and people are having concerns because the ticket prices are so high. Let's say when Indiana Jones came out, and I was a fan of the Raiders of the Lost Ark and the Last Crusade. I love those movies, but this one, which I don't think should have been made, I wouldn't have green-lighted an Indiana Jones movie myself. But at first, like, okay, I'm kind of curious about it, but with the ticket prices and then the length of time, I was just like, you know what? I have too many concerns. I'm just going to sit this out. And there's some people on YouTube and some other people on Click weren't that thrilled with it. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go to the theater for this. And that's going to go into my next thing. The tickets are way too expensive. Like a prime time night, it could be up to $20, like in a premium screen, maybe even more than that in some places, but you're looking at least $15. So that's just entirely too much. I remember when I was growing up, and even when I was a little bit older, that was a good way to spend some time. It was a cheaper way to do things. Now, concessions have always been expensive, but that's how theaters make their money, so I'll cut them some slack on that, because they only keep 40% of the ticket sales. But, I mean, tickets are just out of control. So the numbers may look good, but less people are coming, because why would you? It's just too much. You can wait 8 weeks and just stream it at home. Then, and I'm really talking to you, AMC, 30 minutes of trailers. 30. I'm not exaggerating. I've gone to AMC a few times, and I'll go in there for, say, a 6:30 movie, and I'm excited, ready to see the new movie. 30 minutes of trailers. I'm like, when is the movie going to start? And then I'm thinking, they're finally done. Then Nicole Kidman comes up. How AMC theaters are just a much better experience after I'm sitting in one. So they just wasted another 3 minutes. So 33 minutes before your feature starts. That's ridiculous and completely unnecessary. And it would drive me away because I'm like, why would I go through all that trouble? See, it's adding to the hassle. Then, here's another one. Because of today's technology, people take phone calls. That's happened numerous times where I've gone to a matinee screening because, I had some free time. Movie I wanted to catch up with that I hadn't seen yet. Been out a couple weeks. Somebody will just take a phone call. That's happened to me numerous times in the middle of the theater. Just take a phone call or out playing on their phone, or I've been to other ones, they're just cutting it up, ruining it for everybody. And it's ridiculous. And it's like most of the time I've heard from numerous people, like it's happening more and more frequently. I understand, like growing up, it's always been an issue, but it's gotten really bad in the past few years, where it's just like, that's another thing. Why go through all this? People are going to cut up. In order to deal with it, you got to go find somebody and then get somebody to come to your theater and then point them out. And then they'll talk to them for a minute, and the people cutting up will nod their head. And then most of the time after the usher or manager leaves, they start back at it again. You got to get up and do it again. It's ridiculous. Then, a lot of times theaters are very understaffed because they have razor thin margins. A lot of times they'll just be like, look, we have a payroll thing. It doesn't matter how big the movie is. It's how many people you can have on the floor. And that's the end of that. And some of these poor kids or whoever are getting just overwhelmed, for a big movie. And then people get mad because they can't get their tickets and they can't get their popcorn. And, they're waiting forever just to get stuff. But the theater's like, well, the corporate part of the theater is like, well, we have the payroll restrictions, so this is how many people can be on the floor. And then it just backs up. So it's ridiculous. And the current problem movie theaters are having is people have great setups at home now. I have a great TV. I can cut the lights off, and it's not as good necessarily as the experience on the big screen, but it's a pretty damn good experience. I don't have to worry about a lot of the things I just brought up. No trailers, no idiots cutting up, none of that. So you have that. And the final thing is, a lot of these movies have just gotten too long. I understand sometimes, you got to tell your story, take the time you need. I don't believe in just chopping up a movie just for the sake of length, and it feels uneven and incomplete. You saw that with Zack Snyder's Batman vs. Superman. The 3-hour cut was more necessary. But a lot of times these movies are just too long. It's like after 20 to 30 minutes to drive, depending on where your theater is, then to buy the tickets and to buy the popcorn, then the 30 minutes of trailers, then Nicole Kidman, then a 3-hour movie. It's like, after you get home, a 6-hour chunk out of your day. I don't know about you, but I value my time. That's just too much. When you could just, a longer movie, you could stay home, wait 8 weeks, break it up if you have to, but you can watch it at better convenience. It's just, movies have gotten too long. And the main thing, it's just too expensive and too much hassle. And a lot of people are being turned away. So, what I think movie theaters really need to do to get back on track, they should meet with the studios because they are partners and like, hey, we want more movies, different movies, and increased quality control. Need to have somebody to oversee to make sure, instead of this creative by committee and things are just thrown together and they all go for the home run and they don't really work. Let's try to find a good pipeline, a steady pipeline, but a good quality control. Don't do like Netflix and just churn them out, and who cares if it's good or not, it's content. But you need to find a good balance. So that's what the studios need to do, because they are partners in this, because streaming wasn't the salvation everybody thought it'd be. And the one thing the theaters need to do, I think they need to fight for to gain relevance, and some people probably won't like this, but I think they really need to. When I was growing up, people had more urgency to go to the theater because it didn't come to home video or the old VHS for at least 6 months. So if there was something you were on the fence on and the tickets were cheaper, you'd be like, okay, I'll go see it. It's not too expensive because I don't want to wait that long. I'm curious enough about it and the price is reasonable enough. I'll go take a look at it. But now it's just like tickets are through the roof. I can wait sometimes as little as 6 weeks and I'll watch it at home. So there's that. So for theaters, they may need to be like, look, we need a more exclusive window, not this streaming a few weeks later. And another thing, if they would get more movies, smaller budgets, these ticket prices got to come down. It's just too much. $20, that's ridiculous. It's just entirely too much, and a lot of people are opting out because movie theaters, when I was growing up, that was a cheap form of recreation because there were a lot of other things that were really expensive. That was one of the cheapest things you could do, a great family night out or a date or whatever, was or hang out with your friends, just whatever you think of. It was much more cost efficient. It wasn't that bad, and you had a good 2 hour, a good time. Now, let's get to the other part. What I think theaters should do, with that, have because I've noticed theaters are busy when I've gone on a Tuesday night, because that's usually a discounted ticket night. They have good business, but they also should try, like on a Wednesday night, 30% off concessions. They're marked up a whole lot more than 30%. I think that would bring some people out. Like, hey, it's concessions 30% off. That's significant savings. So maybe we should, go have a fun night at the movies. Try some specials like that. And another thing they need to do is, for busier nights, they need to have increased security. Like, have a security guy around. And the reason being is, have somebody that's kind of trained to handle that when there's idiots cutting up. You can go tell the security guy, he can get them out of there. And there needs to be clear signage. Be like, you cut up, you take phone calls, you're gone. They need to make that a rule because, like I said earlier, theaters are a sacred place where people are, want a good atmosphere to enjoy the movie and experience it. Not have to get up to try to get people removed who don't want to be there or are there for the wrong reasons. So that needs to change, and there needs to be like staff, like the Alamo Drafthouse. You said, you take phone calls, you cut up, you're out of here. And it was very clearly stated, all the theaters need to do that. And like I talked about earlier, with the quality control, I think there needs to be some restored faith. Like, it's going to take some time. These movies need to get better. The studios need to do better because people are smartening up, like I said earlier. There needs to be a good slate where, of course, not everyone's going to be good, but there just needs to be some kind of solution because right now this creative by committee is starting to not work so well. And I will say with this, I will end with this. I want theaters to succeed, like I said earlier. I have so many great memories, and I'll share a couple of them with you. I remember going to the theater to see Universal Soldier, and I was about to move away, and I was kind of sad. I was leaving all my friends, but my mom took me to see Universal Soldier, and I got to see Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren on screen for the first time in a big screen in a theater and experience that. And it took my mind off of it, and it brought me some joy, and that was a great experience. And another time, when Blade first came out, I was a big Wesley Snipes fan growing up. And I didn't know anything about Blade, but I thought it looked cool. And I went opening night, and it was packed. And this was before smartphones and all that. And everybody had a blast. The place was packed. It was a great experience. Those are just some of them. I want to experience that again. But I don't go to theaters much anymore because of the problems I just mentioned. It's just too much trouble. So I think theaters, once this writers-actors strike is resolved, they really need to take an introspective look. How do we get better? And then get with the studios since they're partners. What can we do to bring people back? Because right now, it's just not working. And it's not going to last forever. Or it's going to become more of a niche thing. Or it's just going to be a blockbuster event, which is where it's going. And that's a shame. I want it to go back like it was, where, it was a cheap form of recreation. And you know, they had some established movies and there was some trust, and you're like, okay, I'll take a look at that, and the price is right. Not anymore. Now it's just too much of a risk and hassle. So that's what I think needs to happen. So let me know in the comments, what do you think theaters need to do? Do you go anymore? What are your thoughts on all this? Or let me know any of that in the comments. Thanks for sticking with me this long, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.